Yeah, I think just the whole thing of rejection, again, my family background, I knew that, should my family know about this, that I would be pretty much rejected or disowned or whatever.
Mm.
Great-grandfather, he was a catechist in the Catholic Church, so there was a lot of tradition in, Catholic tradition in my family line. And, I suppose it was something to live up to. But, I kept telling my mum for about a year, I'm going to Rob's place, but in actual fact I was going to Christian youth stuff. And then I just remember going to a conference out at Karaka, and I was met with just hostility. And long story short, my mum kicked me out at that age, 17, out onto the street, based on the fact that I've been going to this Christian church. And I just went to my room and I was crying while I was packing up, saying, God, look, I was pretty straight up. I was truthful, and this is what's happening. I'm getting kicked out of my home. And I was just finishing packing, and my brother said, Mum wants to see you before you go. And I started taking all my gear out the door, still crying. My mum said, what are you doing? And I said, well, you've asked me to leave, so I'm going to go find somewhere. And, my mum was pretty stubborn. She, it's a good old Psalm 180, but instead of saying, no, just stay there, didn't really mean what I said. Instead of saying that, she said, she paused. She just said, don't leave, just get a job first, and then you can leave. So that whole situation was turned around, and I marched back to my bedroom, started unpacking, and I just really felt God honoured that me being truthful with my mum, and just God took me on an awesome journey about honouring your mother and father. And from that day, I asked God, then how do I honour my mum? And I want to press on with this faith in you. So the Lord laid on my heart to go to the Catholic Church for 6 months, and then go to the Catholic Church with your mum, just honour her. And so I broke all ties with the Christian church and just went to church with my mum for 6 months. And, the whole time during the Catholic service, I'll be praying to God and asking him about certain stuff. And then 6 months later, doing that, I felt God say, now ask your mum if you can go to the Christian service at the evening, but still go to the Catholic church in the morning. So I asked her if I could do that, and she was okay with that. So I did that for 6 months, and then a year from the date when this all started happening, 6 months later, I asked, the Lord said, now ask her if you can go to both services at the Christian church. And, pretty much I asked her, and there was no argument, there was no qualms about anything. She pretty much released me to go to, as we call it, full-time Christian church, if you want to call it that. And, and that was simply just out of honouring your mother and father, just that commandment, and God started really speaking to me powerfully through that verse and working that through my family, and saying the only way you're going to reach your mum is through your actions, not through your words. And that, funnily enough, that commandment has the promise, one of the greatest promises of, that you'll live long in the land. So, that's awesome.
Your mum did say that you need a job, and you do have now. How did that come about? How did you become a policeman?
I'd say I've always wanted to be a policeman, even at the age of 21. There was a course at MIT that if you did that course, that would prepare you to sit the police examination. But to get onto that course, you had to do an exam. I failed that. Couldn't get onto that. So a lot of the preparation to get in, do the police test was just self-help. I just got the couple of police books that you can get and studied them and worked. It was pretty much like a part-time job for me for about a year and a half. And when I felt right to sit the exam, I went and sat it. But yeah, it was that pretty much. Yeah, when I went on a scope, I was really praying and asking God, "Hey, is this the job that Is this the direction that you want me to go into?" And I just felt. And we went to a job where someone was wanting to take their life. We were on the way, and I felt God just while I was in the police car, getting, just sitting along with these two cops in the front, and I felt the Lord say, when you're a youth pastor, the people phone you if they were going to end their lives, and I say no. And I've done a bit of socially stuff, work in Otara, and the Lord asked me, when you're working in Otara, do people invite you into their homes when they have problems? And I said to the Lord, no. And he said, tonight you're going to see why I want you on this job. And I remember coming away from that job. The girl was okay, nothing happened, but God was starting to prepare my heart. And
how did you take it when you failed that test, but then God was saying, this is the path that I want you to go?
Yeah, it's quite discouraging in some ways, because it was a test that was going to get you prepared for the police test, and I couldn't even pass that. So, it was almost like, there was a lot of trust in my ability for me to get there, but I think God was, God would always carry me to a certain stage and certain level in my preparation to sit the police test. For example, I couldn't swim to save my life, but I just kept going every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, to the Papakura pools and, start treading and doing my duck dive and all that. And I just kept doing it. And then it was like, God would always say, I think you're ready to do it now. You should do it. Don't procrastinate. But I think, you feel like a failure when you miss the mark. But I think God had put something in me just to get back on. If you fall short, if you miss out on a test. I actually failed my first swimming test. And I just had a bit of a mope, bit of a pity party. But I always thought, well, I can stay like this all the time, but it's not going to get me a pass. So just need to get back up. So that's what I've learnt now. You're always going to get a setback. Have your little cry, but then you need to get back up and and give it another go.